My life is full of close calls. I think I can go through about 10 examples this week that would prove that my life must be full of close calls, even just by knowing how many I've gone through in the last 7 days. First of all, this podcast. I mean, it's Tuesday. They normally come out maybe Tuesday at 12 a.m., maybe Tuesday at 11 at the latest, but now it's 9:54 and I'm recording this, and you're telling me that it's not already out. You know why? I called it close call. I mean, you can't blame me for not knowing the days between Christmas and New Year's. I'm sorry, but I think we fall under that trap. We all fall under that trap of not knowing the days. And today I woke up, didn't realize it was Tuesday. I went to go visit my sister in Westchester, Pennsylvania, not New York. I came home, went right to work, and I was like, mother of pearl, it's Tuesday, and I haven't recorded White Coffee's Tuesday episode. Well, here it is. I mean, I'm getting it done by Tuesday, so that's a close call, my friends. Second of all, now this is more pertaining to my life more. My parent, I mean, I could, well, I guess, let me first start off by saying, think of the last couple episodes where I've talked about my sleeping through my final. There was another example, I can't remember, and I'm sorry, but sleeping through my final, I said, is a terrible example of a great story, because I tell you, oh, I slept through my final, and then you might go, oh my gosh, what happened? That's terrible, and then I just go, nothing happened, I just got to retake it, and that's not a fun story, and that is what my life is full of, and as much as I don't want there to be problems and unfortunate occurrences in my life, they would make for good stories, like this. My parents got divorced when I was 12 years old. And within the last year, they've gotten back together. So from now on, I can't say that my parents are divorced anymore. I mean, it's a good thing, but it also is like, yeah, they're divorced. That's terrible. But now it's like, I can't say that. My parents are together again. I mean, it's an interesting story to say they got divorced and now they're back together after 7 years. But come on, it's not the same. But I guess good for them. None of you know my parents, but they're back together. My final, of course, like I said, I'm still saying I'm going within the last week. I mean, count the last 9 days within the last week. But, like I said, I slept through my matrices final. I woke up the exact time that it was due. It was due at 9:50. I woke up at 9:50. And I had to email my professor, and I just was in a total trance going, oh my gosh, what do? I don't know what to do. I had just woken up, so I still was very confused, and I just emailed him. I was like, I'm sick. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. I couldn't get to the phone in time. Not that makes any sense, but I can't do my final. Is there any way I can make it up? And he goes, yes. Just do it now. I'm like, ah. Well, I'm very thankful for the reality of the situation that I'm able to redo it, but talking about it later, that's not interesting. I can't go back and just talk about how I didn't get to do my final when by the time I tell that story, I already have taken my final. There's not even a moment where I get to talk about how bad this situation was, because before I can even talk about it, it's already good again. Similarly, within the last couple of days, I think it was December 26th, I was sleeping over at Jacob Cedarberg's house. We had a big group of friends together at his house. Like I said, we made breakfast at his aunt's house last week while he's still watching his aunt's dog, so he's still house sitting for his aunt. His aunt lives in a big house, so we were all over there, and we slept over, and at like 3 in the morning, not that that really matters to the story. Anyway, at like 3 in the morning, I got an email saying, hey, Harrison, you never returned your Penn State books, which means we're going to charge you $700 to replace the books and as a fee for you getting them here late. And then I emailed back right away, and I said, they're in the mail. I mailed them 5 days ago. I apologize that they're not there yet, but it's out of my control. I don't know what to tell you. The UPS guy is being a moron. They never answered back, so I called them the next morning, and they go, sorry, our office is closed until January 11th. And I just think, I'm stuck here. I'm in limbo. I'm in the inception limbo where my books are in the mail. I'm on the phone with a company that doesn't exist, and I'm emailing people that are not emailing me back, and I'm getting charged $700 for books that aren't returned that have been returned. And what's even worse is when I called that company to return my books, they said it was the 26th of December. Well, early the 27th in the morning, sorry. Early the morning of the 27th, I called the bookstore, and their voicemail was, hey, we're not here, but if you're talking about books, if you're here to call us about books, just know that they're not due until the 28th. And I was even more mad because I'm just concerned now. I'm like, well, now they're not even due till the 28th. You've already charged me. I've tried to talk to you for the last day. I've tried to call you. You're not answering. What's going to happen? You already charged me. What's going to happen when they finally get there? Are you just going to have 2 sets of books and I still get charged $700? So there's probably a day that went by that I was just concerned, like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to buy these books. I mean, I have the money for them, but it's still a pain in the A. I'm not strapped for cash, but it's a pain to have to drop $700 on something that I shouldn't have to drop it on. I mean, it'd be different if it was I crashed my car and I'm like, oh, here's $700. Some guy, I drove into a tree. I'll pay $700 to fix my car. At least my mind can comprehend the fact that that was my fault and I have to pay to fix it. But this wasn't my fault. I sent my books back. They never got there. And now I have to pay since the UPS guy didn't get them there in time? Well, today I got an email saying, "Hey, your books have been returned, and they're in good condition too, and your return agreement has been satisfied." So they never said like, "Hey, you got your money returned," but it also was like, "Well, you better not be charging me because I gave you my books back." So that's the closest story I could tell you of there was a day where I could complain before everything got resolved. But other than that, I mean, it's mostly just like I get about 10 minutes of being concerned, and then it's like, oh no, never mind. You're not concerned anymore. Everything's figured out. Like, as much as I'm glad that I live content. It's pain in the A when I'm trying to record a podcast here and think of things to talk about when everything I talk about is very mundane. The worst thing about my books, so that story's over. But the worst thing about my books is I had to. Well, I don't know. My books were due on December 19th, right? My last final was December 18th, which, I mean, I should have returned them on the 19th. But then Penn State Harrisburg emailed me and said, "Hey, you have another week to return them." So I wasn't too concerned about it because I knew all I had to do was walk them down to campus and turn them in. But the campus bookstore was closed after the 19th, which meant I had to ship them to the campus bookstore. And I did that last year, so I wasn't concerned about it. I just had to print out a label, put them in the box I got them in, and send them back at the UPS drop-off on campus. The UPS guy will take them from campus, I guess take them to UPS, bring them right back to campus at the bookstore, which is stupid. I should just deliver them at the Penn State bookstore myself in the mailbox, but whatever. Now this year, I had to pay $5 to get a shipping label, so that's already a pain. I gotta quit saying pain in the A, I'm sorry. That's already annoying that I have to pay for them now this year. What's more annoying is they didn't get there on time. So they had to go maybe 13 feet, maybe 100 feet. But still, I'm exaggerating a bit, clearly, but not more than a football's field length away to have to get them to where they need to be. I could have walked them there, and they don't accept the mail unless it's delivered by the guy in the brown vest. And I already have beef with FedEx, or UPS, because I work at FedEx. Sorry, Freudian slip there. I don't know if that's what that means, but Freudian slip. So that was just, the books in general are just annoying, because I could have dropped them off, but I wasn't allowed to, and then I had to mail them, and then the mail lost them. It took them 5 days to return them 10 feet away, and then I got charged $700. That would have been a good story, you see? But no, everything got figured out, and now it's nothing. Now it's just a normal story. Hey, I sent my books back, and they got there on time. That's not as fun. Lastly, this is getting a little more personal. I'm not going to say any names in this story, but here's the last close call of the week. I'm a single guy. I have dating apps. I have Tinder. I matched with this girl on Tinder, and for the first time ever, I was like, you know what, let's hang out. So me and this girl were hanging out. This took a couple days to figure out, but me and this girl were hanging out through Tinder. We didn't do anything. Nothing happened. We just watched TV and laid next to each other. Whatever. Nothing crazy. She came over again. Same thing. I mean, to be completely honest, we shared a kiss, as men and women are ones to do. But nothing crazy happened. I mean, I think you know what I mean when I say crazy. But nothing crazy happened. Nothing rated R. Right? But I was like, and then she went back home. So I was at Penn State Harrisburg. She was here visiting her sister, but they both left, whatever. So she doesn't live here, but she was just visiting. So I met her on Tinder. She came here for a couple days and left back home a couple hours away. But we had a great time together. And I was like, it was nice spending time with you. She agreed it would be nice to hang out again. If once her sister comes back to school, we should all hang out again. like, hey, that's fine with me. And then the next day, she sends me a text message and says, hey, if things are going to go any further, I think there's something you should know. And I was a little concerned. I go, oh my gosh, is this woman that I've caught feelings for, is she a man? Or what's the deal here? Is she going to kill me? Is she a murderer? Is she Amelia Earhart reincarnated? I don't know. She texts me back. I say, what? I'm all ears. No, nothing. Well, let's hear it. What's up? And she said, I'm not going to say the name. I mean, I'm not, clearly not. And she texted me and said, I have herpes. Right? And this is all over text. My stomach sank to the beneath my shoes. I think it went down about 6 feet beneath my shoes. I'm just sitting there in a daze, just like, what? I don't, as much as I like women, I don't hang out with them very often. And for the first time, I'm hanging out with a girl in a long time. You got to be kidding me that this one has an STD. So I just text her back and I say, are you talking about, do you have oral herpes? Because that was the one that, like, if that would be bad because we did kiss. So if you have oral herpes and we kissed, now I have oral herpes and you didn't tell me, and that kind of makes me mad. But she texted me back and said no, she doesn't have oral herpes, which I feel bad saying was a load off my mind because I was like, oh, thank God. Hey, sucks for you though. You still have herpes, but I don't. But I'll be honest, yeah, I was kind of relieved, but still freaked out just in the fact, like, I feel I don't know what to say. Not freaked out and like, oh my God, get away, but just like, that's, well, what? I don't know what to say. So she has genital herpes, right? And I hope you guys aren't hearing me talk about this and thinking that I'm trying to, like, I don't know. I try to make white coffee funny or talk about stuff interesting. This is probably the most personal thing I'll ever say on the podcast. And it's not even personal to me, but it's just private, I guess. It is personal to me in a way. I'm just talking about what I do in my daily life. But, so this girl has genital herpes. And I was like, you know what? I'm not an a-hole. I'm not going to say, oh my gosh, that's gross, get away. You're going to give me herpes. Like, clearly there's only one way I could get it. And I'm like, all right, it's easy enough not to do that. I don't have to worry about getting herpes. I know I'm not going to get it. But then I have to think, like, well, can we still be friends? I mean, of course, yes, it's easy enough to say, yes, we can still be friends. That's no reason to not be friends with somebody. But I just met this girl. And we don't, like, it's not like we went to high school together or we really have anything, like, any people, any friends in common that we would have any reason to see each other. Is it wrong to say, it's just, hey, I'm terribly sorry to say this. I had a great time hanging out with you, but I think it's for the best that before we want to try to get more serious, or before we try to develop, or before we start developing feelings for each other, it's probably best we just stop hanging out. Because that was the plan. She was going to come up and visit again before the semester started with her sister. And, like, that would have been fun. It would have been cool to hang out again. But now it's like, and clearly I'm not just saying, like, oh, well, you're going to give me herpes, so no, don't come out. Don't come over. I'm not saying that. But it is also like, well, I mean, clearly we're not just like, we're just good friends, so we're hanging out a lot and she's going to sleep over. I mean, it's easy enough, even the next time she visited, not to do anything crazy, like I said, rated R, right? For lack of a better term. It's easy enough not to do that. But if we're going to hang out, we're doing it to be more serious. We're going to start developing feelings for each other, and it's just better off, in my opinion, to nip it in the bud, I guess. To say, you know what, I already have feelings for you. It sucks, but I think it's just best if we stop talking to each other before it gets more serious, before I develop more feelings for you, and then it's going to be harder later down the road to cut this off, because I'm sorry, but I will say I don't plan on this going anywhere more serious, because I don't think that's a risk I'm willing to take, if I have to be completely honest. And I hope you, as the White Coffee viewers, understand. I feel terrible. I do feel bad. And I had to talk to her today. She was asking me when we were going to hang out, and I feel terrible having to tell her, like, I just don't think it's I don't think it's a good idea for us to keep hanging out. And not because I'm so shallow that I'm like, oh my gosh, you're gonna get me an STD, and you're psycho. Like, and I'm not even thinking like, oh, how'd you get it? What were you doing? Like, I'm not blaming her. I know what happened, and it wasn't her fault necessarily. Where it's not a situation where I can blame her for having herpes, right? So I feel terrible saying that I don't think it's a good idea for us to stay together, but I also don't think it's a good idea for us to stay together and hang out and get more serious when I don't plan on marrying this person. I don't plan to spend the rest of my life with this girl. I mean, it's one thing to hang out and have a little fling, but not when once she's gone and I still have to live with the consequences, I guess. I'm sorry if that didn't come off right, that whole story. I didn't really plan on getting that far deep into it, but you know what, White Coffee, you deserve to know what the heck goes on in Harrison's life, because there's probably plenty of things I leave out of this podcast, and then I complain about how this podcast is boring, when in reality, I'm leaving out all the interesting things I do in my life. Even like my parents' divorce, I don't talk about that. My parents got divorced, and now they're getting back together. That's insane, but I don't really talk about it, even though that's interesting. So I don't know. I do feel bad about that whole story. But I guess bottom line of that was, even in the moment, I was thinking, do I have herpes? So there's 10 minutes where she says, I have herpes. And I text her back and say, did you give me herpes, basically? And then there's 10 minutes where I'm like, oh my God, I might have herpes. Now, I don't know what she's going to say, but I might have herpes. And then in reality, she goes, no, you don't have herpes. And I'm like, all right. Of course, I don't want to have an STD, especially this young in my life, but that's not an interesting story to say, I talked to this girl that has herpes. It'd be different if I was like, hey, I talked to this girl for 2 days and she gave me herpes and didn't tell me. As terrible of a story that'd be, it'd also be a lot more interesting than saying, oh, I knew this girl that had herpes. I didn't get it, though, thank God. You know what I mean? Because I think we're all mature enough to go, oh, it's not that big of a deal, but I'm not going to purposely give myself herpes. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable really talking about it as much as I'm not going to talk about it again. But I hope you appreciate the fact that I pulled the curtain back into my life a little bit and told you what goes on behind the scenes. Speaking of behind the scenes, I think from now on I'm going to keep the podcast around 20 minutes, unless I have a crazy life-altering story like that. But it's just easier. I'm sorry. Most of the viewer retention goes for about a minute and a half. And for the people that like to listen to the whole episode, I'm sure 20 minutes is enough. So thank you. But of course, we need to end every show with the word of the day. And today's word of the day is usurp. I don't know how to spell it. Usurp. U-S-U-R-P. It's a verb meaning to take a position of power or importance, illegally or by force. So Richard usurped the throne, or to take the place of someone in a position of power illegally, right? The church had usurped upon the domain of the state. To infringe on someone's rights. Usurp. It's a verb. It means to take illegally, basically. Next, we have the song of the day, which is Jerry Cinnamon, a Scottish singer, singing the song "The Bonnie" about a bonfire. Hang on, let me figure this out here. Just a very good chill song to play in the background of a fire or a party or whatever you're doing, a bonfire. Of course, "The Bonnie" by Jerry Cinnamon, a great song. A great song followed by an even better movie, a classic 1989 film starring Weird Al Yankovic, UHF. After losing yet another job, George wonders if there's any career that can handle his outrageous personality. When George's uncle hands him the deed to a local TV station, George creates a series of television shows based on social satire and hyperactive humor, with the help of his best friend Bob. However, a rival station bitter CEO tries to destroy George's wacky programming, forcing him to fight back. Starring Weird Al and Michael Richards. Michael Richards, better known as Kramer from Seinfeld, or the guy that screamed the N-word at the Comedy Store, or the Laugh Factory, in California in like 2007. Psycho. Anyway, a great film. Classic film. 7:30! And he created the Twinkie Wiener Sandwich, which is a Twinkie cut in half down the middle with a hot dog and cheese whiz down the middle, which is not very good. Me and my cousin Colin tried it. It's not very good at all. last note, I got the iPhone 12. I changed to iPhone. I used to only have Samsung for the last 5 years. I had no preference to Samsung. I just was used to them, so I kept buying them. But I finally bought an iPhone 12 Pro Max, and so far I like it. It's very big. I was holding back from getting iPhone because the music that I could use on Android, it was a lot easier to steal music online and then change it over to my Samsung. But now I have Spotify, so it really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Right? Anyway, that's pretty much the end of this episode. I hope. Yeah, I know I rambled. The point of this was that I have a lot of close calls. I got a lot of. I delved deep into one specific story about me and a lady. But it still was a close call. I hope you appreciate the fact that I'm felt comfortable enough talking personally on this channel. But I guess be careful. Be careful out there, because you never know who's going to turn around and tell you that they almost gave you an STD. That, my friends, was a close call. Also, if you can hear anyone talking in the background of this episode, it's Jason and a lady that he got to the apartment who, let's hope, doesn't have herpes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you all on the Thursday episode of White Coffee.